What's going on, guys? Welcome back, and this week we are going to be planting the 80A 60P secret project tank. So this is a tank that I'm going to be trying to put together to enter into the 80A aquascaping contest for this year, maybe possibly next year. We'll see how the growth of the plants are in the next few months here. So with the hardscape completed from last week, the theme for that was entanglement, to try to integrate the rocks and the driftwood into one. And for the planet side, the theme that I was thinking of, since it was kind of springtime, was cherry blossom. So when I think of cherry blossom, the one thing that comes into my mind is the color white and how a lot of the blooming is just occurring. So trying something a little bit different, I wanted to try to integrate some white plants into this aquascape. I know that it's kind of a little bit different and out there, but as you know, if we try to recreate something that is in nature, kind of like cherry blossom in Japan, a lot of the trees over there are actually white and slash pink or like a reddish color. So with some of the white plants, I'm going to be using a lot of Anubias nana petite white, pinto, and something very different that I actually haven't seen used in actual a lot of the scapes is the Platinum Glosso. It's basically kind of a white-ish Glosso. I'm gonna mix it in with kind of like the regular Glosso as well, just to show like possible like some of the leaves falling on the floor, and you have some white patches here and there from the actual white flowers that kind of hit the floor. I don't know. If it turns out the way that I'm imagining it, it could be pretty cool. And then some of the other regular plants are some Japanese dwarf hairgrass. I also have some regular glosso, like I mentioned, some Bruce philandras. This is going to be the red mini. And for the background plants, decided to go with two of them, the Rotella butterfly mini and then the Rotella hyra. So with those plants, they'll kind of pull out some of the reds and some of the greens. And then for a lot of the plants that are up front, you'll see kind of a mix of green into that white-ish. For this setup, I wanted to kind of eliminate any pests that could be introduced into the tank. So I started off with some tissue cultured plants where I can actually get it. Some of them I couldn't. I ended up having to use potted versions of that, so I dipped that into a hydrogen peroxide solution before adding it into the tank. To try to kickstart this tank to make it look like it's aged and has been there for a while, I wanted to attach some of the moss and plants onto the driftwood and onto the actual rocks to make it look like it's been growing on there for a while and it's kind of consuming and taking over some of that driftwood. So I have some Taiwan moss here that I cut up into little bits. The reason why I'm cutting it up is because I don't want big patches on the actual driftwood. And also, if you cut it up into tiny pieces, it can actually grow a lot better in terms of coverage. Normally, I would go with like a fishing string or some sort of thread to actually tie this onto the driftwood. But because I wanted to kind of make it a little bit easier on myself and a little bit faster, decided to go with super glue this time around. It's just 10 times easier and faster. Because I'm using brand new 80A aqua soil, this soil leaches a lot of ammonia, and doesn't matter if you use established media, it's going to take at least 2 weeks to fully cycle. While it's cycling, the tank is probably going to be leaching a lot of tannins from the driftwood just because I didn't clean it or boil it at all. Once the tank is fully cycled, I'll probably add in carbon to withdraw a lot of that tannins before adding in the livestock. In terms of livestock, it's going to be basically a few nanofish and maybe a couple of mono shrimps here and there just to kind of control the algae. But the main focus of this scape is the actual, driftwood, rocks, and the layout. So I don't want to add in any big fish or fish that would distract or kind of like, draw attention away from the actual scape. Now in terms of filtration, I decided to go with an overflow box with a sump. I had an extra one laying around, and to be honest, probably the best way to get aeration into the aquarium with the flow, and also it's just way easier to maintain and clean when you have everything on the bottom of the tank and you can just kind of pull it out and just rinse it and put it right back in. So definitely it's probably the best way to run a planet tank. Alright guys, and that is the update for the week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can actually follow this project from the beginning all the way to the end. I'm super excited to see this kind of fully mature and actually grow in. And of course, like always, until next time guys, peace.